All right, I appreciate you for finding some wisdom or connection within my podcast because honestly, I'm just a real guy who sees the detriments of pretending to be people we're not or not practicing how to speak our truth and what that looks like. And ultimately, that affects our authenticity. I mean, if we're not authentic, like, what do we have? And I just see this as something I don't want to practice in the world anymore. You know, I see this within myself. So I look for humans in the world that are doing things in their own way, the same way. And what I mean by that is just being honest and authentic, standing for what they believe in, living with love. And sometimes we can find that within business. And today my guest is Fernanda da Silva, and she is the CEO of a skincare company. And Azurlis, I believe the name is, as I believe that's the pronunciation of the name. But she's out in New Zealand, and the really wonderful thing about Fernanda is that she will be the first to tell you that if you want to take care of your skin and you want to age beautifully, it's all about self-love and self-care. So to have found a human who owns a skincare company, who's a scientist and a researcher and all of these wonderful things, she, at the core of who she is heart-centered. And she's not afraid to talk about that. And she's not afraid to step into the power of the divine feminine and be brave and courageous and stand up for what she believes in. So in this episode, we talk a lot about what it means to be a god and a goddess, because all of us are. And I think that that's very important when we're understanding our power in our lives. And there's no ego attached to that whatsoever. Understanding that you're a god or a goddess simply means that you have the ability to create the reality you want to live in. This in turn makes you a god or a goddess. Now, if you do this from a place of love, you will be unstoppable in achieving whatever it is you desire. Because everything built off of the foundation of unconditional love for self first will be shared in turn with others is highly attractive as you create a vibrational frequency that is naturally attractive to other individuals who are aligned with that frequency or who are very curious about what you've created. So gods and goddesses is what we are. We're going to talk about that in this episode, and we're going to teach you a little bit about how to connect with that, because I think a lot of us just lack tools and education of how to navigate ourselves. So I love having conversations with people who have their own experiences and their own methods of arriving to these places on their own. We talk a little bit about astrology as well and how to connect this within your lives, and overall just the well-being of self through an understanding of energy. Fernanda is a Reiki Master as well, and I feel like you are going to learn a lot from this woman that can help you grow from your mind and your body and your soul. So I appreciate your time for listening to the episode, and as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for your practice. Much love.
I know exactly how it goes. I mean, just the system is telling me something that anyway, it's all sorted. As I said, these things work fantastically when they are working and they're not. But you've got a lovely place. So where I'm sitting, this is my little study at home, and it's a small room. So this is about literally a 4 by 5 square meters. So it's a small room, and as you can see, I have a wall of hats.
Mm.
Love hats, and I wear many. And then if I can just turn around, I have some books and paintings. So I'm surrounded by things. I've got a couple of roses there, but they're a bit difficult to show from here. I'm surrounded by books, but it's all about and it's a very eclectic collection of books because I love to read about everything. I'm a very avid reader.
Mm.
I like writing as well,
Mm.
and unfortunately, my life is so crazy that my writing kind of falls behind because I spend my time writing about the things that relate to Azurlis, my company. But I keep telling myself, and this is where I think we align so well, I need to push for loving what I do and doing what I love.
Mm-hmm.
So important because most of us, as you know, are pushed into little boxes from the time we are kids. What do you want to do when you grow up? What are you going to? And we have these imposed sort of views of we aspire to be like, sorry, there's a horrible person coming to my mind, and I don't want that person to, no, I don't even want to mention that name. Um, someone that's very close to you geographically, but whom I don't like. Um,
Yes, yes,
you,
that one.
you,
That's
yeah,
taking
that,
over all of social media and the world.
yeah, that one, so we're going to behave as if we're in Harry Potter.
Mm.
So we shall not, it's the one we can't name. So you know who I mean.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So as say for instance, for me as a kid, so my parents always had this thing that I had to be like Pasteur, the great microbiologist in France in the 19th century, and all these people that get Nobel prizes, and you kind of assimilate those aspirations into you, and you forget, oh, hello, meow. I've got a cat too. Mine is Ginger.
She
You call
doesn't
him,
really, she doesn't come up much, so that was kind of cool
ah,
when we're in the
nice.
middle of something. Sorry about that.
No, 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 no. I love cats. I'm a cat. I'm a tiger.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I'm a tiger. So I love cats. Felines are very important in my life.
How are you identifying as a tiger, though? Not that you're identifying as a tiger, because that even saying that these days is kind of confusing. But
Yes,
how do you feel that connection?
because I'm a very independent person.
Hmm.
And I don't like, I actually find it difficult to adhere to systems because that's what you've got to do. And I'm one of those people that, like the tigers, they watch. They watch and they think a lot. They obviously, well, we don't know. We assume that they think a lot. They're assimilating a lot. They're processing the information, and then it comes out in a different way. And for me, that's the tiger in me. Not that I want to attack anyone or I have fangs or, that I don't. I promise you, I'm not a vampire. Have no intention of biting anyone or drawing anyone's blood. But emotionally, in a soul, in a spirit kind of way, it's the tiger energy that I feel in me. Um, I'm very protective of the things that I think are very important, and I get quite distressed seeing injustice. And the tiger is ruthless when it comes to that. Doesn't like nonsense, and actually interesting. The person who connected us, who is my collaborator, Brian, he's he's put me through a very interesting process, of course, where he's taught me, or through a sort of a more than teaching, it's sort of going through a process where I've learned to see what he was trying to say. To see myself as a goddess. I'm not, I don't like that in the arrogant sense of way, but it's the goddess sense is to honor myself, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
you need to
Yeah.
value, need to love yourself so you can help others. And my loving of myself and my say using skincare, and it's not because I'm trying to emulate someone like the Angelina Jolie or the Kim Kardashians, or not at all, not in the least.
Right.
I'm myself, but I'm also a canvas. I'm an artist. So you see, I'm a scientist, I'm a Reiki Master, and I'm an artist. And in being an artist, I like to do things within myself. And they give me fun. They give me some sense of, oh, this is so interesting. And that's where I realized, my goodness, in looking after yourself, you can become so liberated of all the constraints that we've had before. Like my mother always used to say to me when I was about 14, 15, oh, go and put some makeup on. You look terrible. How good is that?
Right, right. Yeah, someone else's idea of beauty, for sure. Embedded
For
at a young
sure.
age. Yeah,
Absolutely.
very
But I
normal.
mean, so, the goddess in me, when Brian was telling me, when we were going through this, is not that I see myself as Aphrodite, not at all. But it's the fact that I value who I
Yeah,
am proud of who I am, not because of pride as pride. Of course, I do have ego. We all have ego. And yesterday, when I was frustrated, that was purely driven by ego because I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, and I was doing everything wrong. So sit down. This is where Reiki helps. At some point, you just have, like I said in my notes to you, ah, just sit down, just chill out. I'm not going to solve anything. I've made mistakes. Just sit down. And it's that recognition of who you are basically in your soul that's important. So that's the tigress in me. So the goddess tigress in me, but not because I want to take the world like the you know who that we can't name,
yeah, yeah.
but because I'd love people to understand you don't have to be attached to all of that. Like you've said so many times in some of your podcasts, you don't even listen to some of the media, the news, because I mean, it's just shocking.
Yeah.
And people are assimilating that as if this is the new world, that's how we conduct ourselves. No, wouldn't it be incredible if we could create a medium where we had thousands of people, millions of people understanding you can be who you are, you can do the jobs that you want to do, love to do, you can help people, you can be part of the community, you can respect yourself, and in respecting yourself, you respect others. You don't have to do anything that is against your norm, and you can think. If you think of a more divine way, more spiritual way, and I'm going to use the word God, not in a formal God, religion, God infrastructure, but a sort of a universal God.
A perception of love, let's say. So
Love,
from the
yes.
perception of love,
From
the
the
source of
perception of
love.
source of love, the universe. Biologically, you were created from a sperm and an ovum and makes an egg, okay, which comes into you. And there's instructions in all of those biological processes that give you a brain. That brain enables you to think. It's not just to, you've got a brain, not to just say, oh yes, thank you, I'll do as I'm told. Think. It's inspiring to think, to understand that we were given this incredible tool to think beyond these four walls in this room, the four
Mm.
walls in your house, to think that, like you said, you can listen to the energy that the plants are communicating with you
Yeah,
because we're all part of one. It is the kind of Gaia concept. What we do affects the environment. What happens in the environment affects us.
yeah,
So, in terms of skincare, this is so interesting. What you do to try and change your skin, it's very important, not because you want to look beautiful, externally beautiful, but because in looking after your skin, you are looking after a medium that is connected to the rest of your organs. So embryologically, the skin is the same type of cell as your gut. Hello, meow.
she's back.
I love, sit down and talk to us. Yeah, purr with us.
She's
I
very
hope,
intelligent.
I hope she
Excellent.
does. Oh, look, she's showing me her bottom, so that's great.
I want to touch on something you said there quick for like with the gods and goddesses remark. I think this is an extremely important topic to talk about because there's no ego attached to an idea of feeling like a god and a goddess if you are centralizing your awareness around your ability to create a reality. And I think when we think of God like or a goddess, like what are they? They're far beyond this
Mm.
material plane of existence because they've reached a level of awareness through an energetic vibration that's been heightened through an understanding of love. So
Yeah.
that application of love to self in turn creates this God and goddess format, which is
Yes.
love for self unconditionally, which
Yeah.
then once obtained is just transmuted to others. So it's very important to pursue the God and goddess within you because that is what we are. But we've been limited in our belief system of thinking we are less.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the obstacle that most face is fear surrounding worth and value. And
Oh, absolutely. You hit the hammer on the nail. Bing.
right, so that disconnection from worth and value as
Yes.
society dictates it to us, as when we are young, we are in classrooms where we're not really able to create this critical thinking process
Yeah.
because we're graded and told what to do, not really asked what our perspectives are on different
Uh,
topics.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that this is where the limitation is implemented in the education system at a very young age, or, within learned behaviors of homes from
Yeah.
parents who have not, you know, they've not been taught how to process emotions from difficult experiences. So they carry that fear with them and they embed that into the child.
Yeah.
And that's another big part of the disconnection of self where this all comes from. So, yeah, like that's taking back your power in a powerless situation, though, is to begin to say, you know what? No, I am divine. What is divine? I don't know. But that's
Yeah.
completely okay because I'm going to pursue what divine means to me. And if we
Yeah.
think of love and the understanding of love for ourselves first, never mind loving anyone else. Because if you
Yeah.
do not love yourself first, then, how are you able to explore what love is for another individual? Everything
Yeah.
lies with self first. So I'm super grateful that you brought that up, the gods and goddess, and even the tiger energy. I'll just speak to that for a second. The tigress observes and it reflects on what it takes in.
Yep.
So the observation of stillness allows us to reflect on what is transparent in right in front of us in the present moment. That is a superpower to be able to do
Mm.
that. And
Mm.
I myself identify with that gift as well. So I'm grateful that you bring these things up. I think that these kind of conversations are beyond what, the sedative normalcy of life is today.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And the other thing is, I must tell you something quite interesting, and that is just I am so pleased that we're not just having a conversation that is audio, that I can see your face. So when you were expressing those thoughts that you've just released now, your face changes. It's
Mm,
really interesting the way in which your skin shows, how your eyes move. The There's a kind of a deep, deep luminosity that comes from your eyes that comes every now and then, like a sort of, like you have these um, lighthouses that are beaming in and out, so that the sheep can see
mm,
where the land is. That's exactly what you were doing. So there were certain words which were resonating with a higher energetic level within yourself that kind of modulated, wave modulated, and your eyes became brighter and then lighter and then brighter and then dimmer and then so fascinating. And that is exactly the power. Or when people say, oh, oh, but I can't change things because it's my genetics. Absolute rubbish.
mm. Agreed.
Okay. Because, okay, look, I understand if you are in a very critical position and you've very late stage cancer and all sorts of inflammatory conditions, there are challenges there to turn around. But what research has shown is that what we thought that we were bound by our genetic component is not quite as limiting as we thought. So nowadays it is thought that the environment, the way we think, the way we expose ourselves to a different realm contributes up to about 25% of our well-being.
Yeah.
So it's not just your genes.
Yeah.
So if you start at a point, look, I'm much older than you. I could be your mom, but
Well, you'd be
if
a
you
pretty
start,
cool mom with all this kind of knowledge. I can tell you that. It's all right.
hey Justin, I'm 67, so I could definitely be your mom.
Fernanda, your skincare is selling quite quickly right now with that kind of information. 67, skin like that. Ladies and gentlemen, there will be a link below for you to buy whatever she's selling. No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
But what we're selling is self-love and self-care. So stick
yes,
with us.
that's the thing. And that is what I've been trying to say to people. It's not how much stuff you put in it. Look, nowadays, it really irks me. Excuse me. People say, oh, we have gold products because gold is so good, gold in skincare. And of course, they sell for a reasonably good fortune. But I mean, you have the gold in you.
Yeah,
You have
absolutely.
the ability to think. And look, I'm 67, regrettably or not. I still feel like I'm 17.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit crazy. I have two kids that are 27 and 29. And, um, and they still talk to me as if I was one of their friends. And I mean, at times they come up with conversations and I think, okay, right. And I'm so direct. But see, the thing is, keep that flame alive of the things that
Yeah.
you love. It's hard when you have these stimuli all over you to do major things. You know that about 20 years ago, because of the way we lived, we probably had about 1,000 thought stimuli every hour. Now, research recently is showing that we have 35,000. So we kind of in this blender.
Is this with the introduction of social media, the retention with
Exactly.
what we put in for the information? Like
Exactly.
this is our evolution is becoming more busy, more chaotic, more sporadic, and less
Exactly.
focus.
Yes,
Dang.
exactly.
Wow. How
So
and what's that progression? 10,000 thoughts per hour from
10,000
when?
about 20 years ago.
Wow, 20 years. That's
So that
that's incredible if you think of the progression. Like, I mean, think another 10. Even if we go 50,000 thoughts an hour, to me, if you think about the psychological pattern and behavior created out of that, it's debilitation.
crazy.
At some point, we that at 50,000 thoughts an hour, the human will be so chaotic, so
Yeah,
sedated because it will not be able to make a choice or focus that it will
yeah,
collapse.
yeah, exactly. You're just sort of
Wow.
overwhelmed in
Wow.
the state of, and it's in the state of what is called Brownian movement when reactions are, you have molecules in a beaker and you put a heater under the beaker and the water is going, but we don't need to. And it's so interesting because do you know when this started? This is quite curious. So this started just after the transition from 1999 to 2000, when we all had this expectation, the new age, that we're going
Mm,
into the
yeah.
21st century. And it was going to be so much more calming and spiritual. And in fact, was quite the contrary. So burst the bubble with the internet, and of course, AI was getting out there. It's been going for quite some time. It's just that we're not aware of it. Even the predictive thing in our phones was all AI, long before it was called AI.
Right.
And so we kind of gradually have been believing this and thinking that we are getting better. Are we?
Yeah.
Are we?
Agreed. Agreed. We're going backwards. And the kids are a perfect example of the byproduct of everything that's going on. This is where I put a lot of my attention is to see what is transpiring in the youth. I mean, this is raw, real data as the byproduct of a chaotic society, and not to mention very little attention in the home life. So we can see where this projection is taking us. And you're right, it's not good. Again, though, a choice. It's a choice. I truly believe that. We all have to do things we don't want to do, but you have a choice to come home and be present with your family and allow yourself time to connect with yourself.
But the thing is, you get so this comes down to a form of addiction. Normally, people think of alcohol, smoking, and other forms of addiction, but actually being busy,
Yeah,
being attached to
yeah,
these kinds of things, these, iPads, phones, or whatever, is a form of addiction. Why? Because they are stimulating our dopamine receptors. And the more dopamine we get, the more we go
yeah.
and we get dependent on that. And it takes so much, not just courage, but takes so much willpower to say, no, hang on. Yeah, I know the work I have to do can be done tomorrow. And look, I'm a prime example of that. I have this small company which I would love to grow, but I work like a bat out of hell. I often have 16 hours days and I work 7 days a week. And here I am trying to create a system where I ease myself, where we ease ourselves. Isn't there some irony in this?
There
Huge.
is.
And at times, um, I have to laugh, Justin, because when we were WhatsApping, and you mentioned something to me that oh yes, I'm one of those people that doesn't is not scared to use her femininity. I just laughed at because it was I was feeling very sad that day. I was actually feeling like, God, if all I've done is for nothing, it's not worth a thing because I'm just not going anywhere. And of course, this is measuring in the kind of external measurements like we've talked about. How much money do you make? How much do you sell? All those kinds of things that people measure you by. And
Yeah.
of course, I know I've done a lot, but I was feeling so low. And when I read your message, um, I packed out laughing and thank you because you kind of made my day. You thought, oh my goodness, imagine this. And, as I said to you, my dad always said, you have too much testosterone for your own good. So on the one hand, I need to put makeup because, I look ugly without makeup. On the other hand, I have too much testosterone because I do. What the hell do
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And and the other thing is that I'm not stupid. Look, I've got a master's in zoology. I've got a PhD in microbiology. I've got a master's in entrepreneurship. I can do anything I want to, but it's not as if I'm not out there on the soapbox saying, this is look at me because of my qualifications. For me, they've all been learning experiences, and I feel that most of us are not assimilating the learning to be able to do something to say, okay, stop, stop, stop. This is my home time. This is my home time. That's my work time. Yeah, yeah, I still have this to do. Okay, it will be there tomorrow. No one's going to die.
Hmm. Yeah. I think the conversation that Fernanda and I had was I had mentioned to her that she stepped into her divine feminine. And what meant by that and what I saw by that is a woman who was taking a risk on herself and she wasn't afraid to speak her truth. And she used her most powerful gift, which was the throat chakra, along with the heart chakra. And she steps out and tries new things. So that to me is a wonderful part of the goddess experience. So you've embodied it. I will share a difficult lesson that I learned in my life surrounding growth of companies and putting too much of myself out there for what I thought would be for others. My
Mm-hmm.
companies in the beginning took a little while to get off the ground because I was doing exactly like you were doing. And about a year ago, maybe a little longer maybe, I took a step back and my wife is such a wonderful balance to all of the tools and education that I would like to see in myself. She is the embodiment of that. So I see all of this stillness and this presence in her when she's in the moment. We live two totally different psychological lives. She's very balanced and reserved. I'm high energy. I'm ready to go. I'll build anything and everything. I can do it if I want to. But when I started to apply this stillness and the awareness for self and value that more than I valued my companies exploded. So you said something very important in the beginning, is that writing is something very beautiful, important to you, yet it comes secondary to all of the work that you're doing for other people that's going nowhere. It's very important to take that time to tap into that creative source, to allow our perspective to take us and lead us to new avenues that will actually benefit growth, because we took time to connect with that information. It's when we forget to do that we get caught up in a mental material experience, and we're not living from the heart center. And that creative awareness of intuitive guidance comes from our heart center. So it's a very interesting business perspective, and we're actually moving to teach this application in a business philosophy, because I think it's very important, because often the world does teach us that we need to create all these expectations out of success and materialism and growth and being busy, and that's exactly what you're doing. Now, you may not be going anywhere, but you're doing the same thing as if you had a Fortune 500 company. So you're in a very wonderful place to create a foundation out of what you would like this company to look like right now. If you continue with your trajectory, you probably will be successful, absolutely, but you will be depleted, and the authenticity and honesty of the execution may not be the destination that you want to achieve, because you sacrificed your own self-love and self-care connection to meet society's expectations of what you should be doing. So I'll share that with you. I did that a year and a half ago, and everything changed for me.
Actually, Justin, that's amazing. Thank you. That really almost feels like you've channeled something.
When you said before that my eyes move like
Yes.
lighthouses, that's exactly what happens to me. I just, and it's funny because I'm very
Yeah,
aware
I
of it
could see
recently.
it. I
Like
could see it.
I'm able to tap into this higher self. So it's just a stream of consciousness where I'm not in control anymore. I'm just the
Yeah.
vessel, and something is allowing, I give something permission to just be. So it's like,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, give this is, and
Yeah.
it's completely heart-centered open. It's not material minded at all. I've actually learned to shut the mind off completely. This is meditation. So right now, right here with you in this conversation, I'm meditating because my mind is still and my heart is open, and I'm speaking from this place. So I'm grateful to say that actually right now, because a lot of people have an idea of meditation and what it's supposed to be, and it's a
Oh,
big
yes.
part of spirituality, but I'm
Yes.
doing it right now. This is what it looks like. It's like, just allow your
Well, you're doing
honesty
it
and
again. It's coming
authenticity
through now.
to transmit what your message is. And
Yeah.
we all have a message, and our message is valuable. It doesn't matter if you work in McDonald's, it doesn't matter what society's expectation or idea or social stature of you is, because your story and your honesty and your authenticity of your truth is priceless. And I think that that's the education that we really are lacking sharing to each other to see growth and evolution.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree, and I'll share something, and that's that I'm sort of shifting in terms of the company very much for the same reasons. So when I started with just a small number of products, about 8 or 9 products, and the way they're designed, they really suit any types of skin, whether they're dry, oily, young or old. But you have to use things in a slightly different way. Nope. It just was not received well because people would say, oh, no, my skin is oily. I can't take something for a dry skin, and, all sorts of things like that. Actually, recently, there is evidence, scientific evidence, showing that the same ingredients that are good as anti-aging ingredients are just as good to regulate sebaceous oil production. So, unknowingly, it was actually okay. But so I've expanded my a number of products, and I'm sort of now in the process of just not so much contracting, but saying, look, people, what you really need is just 1 or 2 or 3 things, and then the other things you can use in a different way. So the top ones,
Sorry, one sec. Digress though. What do you mean? Humans only need one or to three different things. What do you mean? Products or ingredients
products,
or?
Yeah, no,
Not.
two or three products. So what do you need?
Okay.
So if you see, like we see the the pyramid of products where you have a lot of products, and you have the products that are on top should be the ones that you use, what I call the zenith products. So one is a good moisturizer, because we need a moisturizer, good sunscreen, especially in those countries where there's a lot of UV light, and a cleanser. If you want to do anything else, it's fine, but you don't have to. But those are really important. And it's the persistence, continuing to use every day. And in the act of doing it is not, you're not slapping it on. I hate that advertising thing, just slap it on. Don't slap it on. Your skin is the most precious organ in your body. Make no mistakes. Not your heart, not your it's because it's protecting you, it's enveloping you. So treat it with love. I often say, excuse this, I hope it doesn't offend you, make love to your skin. Not that I'm physically making love to my
Right.
skin,
Right.
but it's treating it with the kindness, the respect that it needs. In doing that, all the nerves on
Yeah.
your skin actually get activated and you feel good. So you are protecting yourself.
It's
But
it's it's an application of self-love and self-care. It's putting intention. Like treat yourself like someone you love.
yeah,
Think about that. Treat yourself like someone you love. When you have that understanding that you're, like you say, putting moisturizer on or putting, apricot oil on your face, whatever you're doing, do that with the most care, compassion,
it's yeah,
empathy, and
yeah,
awareness
yeah,
to feel you caring for yourself. I think
yeah.
sorry, that was just a beautiful thing. I just wanted to touch on that. I was like, wow.
And it can be just a few minutes. So we have other products, the products that are below in the pyramid that, are richer. So they are enriching, they provide other benefits, that's fine. But if you only have 5 minutes, please go for the zenith. Go for the ones that you need. Those are the core, the crucial ones to feel good. So I've gone back to really trying to put that image through. The other thing is, I hadn't thought about this before, but in the last few weeks, all sorts of things came into my mind. So, like we buy products in boxes. A classical example, and believe me, I love the brands, but it's for a purpose. Apple has beautiful packaging of their laptops, the computers, the phones, and I keep my boxes when I've bought products. But I only buy a laptop every few years, like every 6 or 7 years, and I make my laptop last until we no longer absolutely can update it anymore, and then you have to change. So it's a very good box. But if you think about all these boxes that we're buying for personal products or for food or whatever, isn't that so much of a waste? Because we're cutting trees, we're printing boxes. They cost quite a bit of money. You put the products in the boxes, and then they get home and they get thrown into the bin and go to the landfill. Yes, even if it's recycling, but there is carbon footprint associated with recycling, so it's not a straight sort of gain. So what I've created, and I am so proud of it. And you'll see on the website that's sort of on the edge. So I created what we called the face cloth wrapping of products. So it's a face cloth. It's a
Nice.
cotton face cloth, unbleached, and it's pretty sort of raw. It's folded in a way to protect your product, but it looks like a flower. It looks like a fleur de lis, or it looks like a rose, because it's how I tie it. Now, I must tell you something, that's how this came about, because as a kid, we came from a background. We never had any, we never had any shortage of food or anything.
Where are you
But
from?
I'm Portuguese. I was
Right.
born in Lisbon, and I was raised in Lisbon in the 50s and 60s, where economies was, more okay, but so we were middle class. But there wasn't a lot of money for buying, big dolls or big games. So my presents tended to be the shoes I needed or the jacket I needed, or my mom used to do things for me. So when I gave things, because I didn't have a lot of pocket money to give things, I used to buy something very tiny and then used to wrap it in the most incredible sort of way, because it was my way of saying, look, I can't buy you something expensive, but dear, it is.
I
So
like
when I'm
that.
wrapping the products in the cloth, to me, it's like the epitome of our key phrase. We don't sell you skincare. We care for your skin. And so you buy a product that has a cloth around it. So you can use it as a face cloth. You can use it as a wall cloth, a floor cloth, garden or car cloth. And when it's absolutely bedraggled, put it in the compost.
Nice.
And so we call it packaging with a purpose. And I really feel it's important to communicate this. So I'm going out on a limb. People will say, "Oh, but it doesn't protect the bottles and or the jars that well." It does. It actually does. But why is it so difficult to change the way we see? Yes, um, I love the Apple boxes, but I only buy a box every now and then for something that we buy pretty much every month. We shouldn't be using things that we throw away.
Mm.
Could do things, because we're creating all these things that are just and plastic, ends up in the sea, ends up inside turtles, inside whales. I mean, honestly, and of course, I'm vegetarian, but those people that eat meat and fish and whatever probably have enough plastic in
Yeah.
their body to make them glow.
Changing the world is never been a big obstacle. It's just been sold to us that way because to change the world, all we have to do is change the way we see ourselves.
Yeah,
And your immediate connection to be aware of nature's presence, such as we were talking with my plants before. We have so many plants because we're in the presence of nature and we're co-creating energy in this room together, and we're very grateful for each other. We show up for each other. We realize that we're their source of water and life, but in turn they're also our source of life as well with air. So and energy, because everything is
yeah.
really about an environment of wonderful energy. So that philosophy of why packaging is built the way it is, and carelessness within a disposable society has been implemented because we live in a society for profit, not for the people. But it's wonderful to meet companies that do take this into consideration because it does display their balance. And I was hesitant to, I was reached out by your man there, Brian, a few times, and I was like, man,
So,
skincare.
yeah.
Like, I'm like, what, like, do they know what I talk about? This kind like, I mean, I'm not sure if they're on the level here, of what this conversation or where it could go, But
Yeah.
then, there was all he used a language to, help me understand you better. And it was because you were talking about self-love being the primary application to a beautiful life. And that's really what resonated with me. And he had also said that she will be a better advocate for what she does than myself. And I thought, okay, he's going to let her use her voice. So that's how Fernanda and I were able to connect over a skincare CEO or, woman in business. And I just think that emotionally balanced perception of self and your discipline and your application of your foundation and who you are is very beneficial. So I am okay and grateful to have brought you on here and to talk about these kind of things because I think it's important.
And look, Justin, I was so privileged to be accepted by you to join you in the podcast, because I listened to quite a few of your podcasts, and I heard the voice, and I heard the pain. There was pain
Yeah.
in some of what you've said, even though it's very well structured. And in one of them, or in fact several, but in one of them in particular, I remember this when you're saying that in society, people are not used to hearing what you're saying, but there will be lots of people that will identify with that because they're going through a similar process. Like even the way you've described how you've put aside alcohol or any other things. And I thought it's actually takes so much courage to say that. Why? Because people see alcohol as a form of, oh, that's my fix, that's my fun. I was many, many, many years ago. Still my first or second year at university, and these kids around me were just kind of going motherless. And someone said to me, "Come, you need to have more drink." And I said, "No, I don't actually need a drink." And I mean, I was 18 or 19 when I said this. I don't need a drink to feel funny and to feel good and to have fun.
Yeah.
I am my own fix.
Yeah.
And this kid just didn't get it at all. And years later, I've thought about this, and I do think that there's so much emphasis on having the big drink, because if you have this wonderful drink, you will look like your idol or whatever, or you'll feel like your idol. Actually, we have inside ourselves all we need. Like, think about it. This is a prime example. You and I have had little chats on WhatsApp, a couple of emails, and we've jumped into this cold. Hey?
Yeah. We
We
really
haven't
don't
had
know each other too well.
no. I think we know each other soul-wise. I think there's a
Yeah,
connection there.
for sure.
But physically, in terms of social norms,
Yeah.
normally we would have had a series of introductions so we know how to behave. You haven't given me a code of ethics of how you want me to behave in your podcast. Um, you know what I mean? So we've actually eliminated a whole lot of layers, and this could go very bad or this could go very good. And instinctively, of course, I was frightened, but instinctively, I was so I was so excited. I was like a kid in a toy shop when I was 7 years old. I'm going to be talking to Justin, who has these amazing podcasts talking about the raw stuff that people don't normally hear. And he's prepared to talk to an old woman about skincare that is something outside of what he would normally talk. But he saw something, and that was so incredibly inspiring.
Hmm.
You took such an incredible risk, because imagine you might have people on your podcast saying, "Oh, that woman is total nuts." That may be the case, but I think even if someone said that, you'd be all right to say, "Yeah, but she's got right to be totally nuts." She's a genuinely nutty person.
Yeah. I wanted people to see you, for the same person that I saw without even knowing you, because I've really just learned to look at people for the energy they are, and their authenticity is the most powerful energy that we create. We believe it's love, but it's not. Love comes secondary to authenticity. So I thought, if I can bring a woman on this show who I feel is going to be transparent and show her authentic self, what a wonderful conversation. What a wonderful place to be vulnerable and share our holdbacks, our setbacks that only really make us better. So that was a really big part of what I was looking forward to myself. I was exactly excited for this conversation as well. And you've executed it very nicely, because you're just you. Like, and the fact that you said, you're not an old woman to me at all. I don't even see you like that. Like, I literally see the inner child, or the spirit within, the essence, your soul essence, your spirit, because the body ages. And yes, you're helping people through that process, but you do educate on the fact that, hey, look, move through your emotional traumas. You want to talk about self-love, self-care, you want to talk about communication, about your true authentic self, you will look younger, 100%. But if you want to tighten your skin up, you want your skin to have a little glow, we're using plant-based products, we're using responsible sources, responsible packaging. We understand that the evolution of the vessel can leave the body torn, beat, bruised based on our choices, before we come into our awareness. So we'll help you with that transition. And I think that that's something that I can stand behind. Now, whether or not people use it, that's up to their discretion. But at the end of the day, you're doing business with a person who is looking to apply love into the model of society through a business factor. And I think that that's a reality that we're all living in. It's very beautiful.
And if I can pick up on two things you've said there. One is using botanicals. So I have great respect for plants as well. And many years ago, an Israeli scientist actually had these recordings, incredible recordings of the energy that plants transmitted. So he had a number of electrodes and he used to water them or cut leaves. And there were spikes that he was following. So, and it made me feel, oh my goodness, you are cutting things, you are harvesting fruits or nuts, and they don't have a nervous system, but there is a feeling. And I had to deal with that as well because I don't want to harm plants.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a bit of a conflict in a way, but at the same time, it's very much like I will ask permission if
Yes.
I can use what the plants are willing to give because they have a much cyclical short life in terms of the seasons. You have leaves in spring and flowers, and then you might have the fruit in summer or in autumn. But then all of that, if you don't take it off, it actually hinders the tree to have a good crop in the following year. So that, but when you do it, don't go with a chainsaw and go, take
Right.
it off. Just be respectful and be grateful. Thank you for the fruit that you're allowing us to make into an oil or into an extract. So, just to bear that in mind. But what I don't like. I don't like people to say, oh, are you using sheep placenta to make you look younger? And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Yes, you may have all sorts of catalytic factors that can stimulate cell growth, but I don't even eat lamb or beef. I'd feel terrible to do that, to
Yeah.
just, I don't wear leather. I used to many years ago, but I don't,
Yeah.
we have synthetic stuff. So it's, that is very important to respect the plants for what they give us because they don't have a nervous system, but there's obviously electrical stimulation and there is some sensing. So be grateful. But the other thing too is that it is so important, like you've said, um, to do something that has a good thing in the end. So in what I wanted at some point, and I shouldn't have started a company about skincare. I should have started a social entrepreneurial project. I just didn't think of it because of my science background. It's always easy to create products, but what I would like to do, and maybe that will happen or never, is to be able to have enough funds so I can have a kind of a foundation where I'm helping kids not to be scared to follow their dream. Now,
Right.
when I was a kid, what I wanted to be an archaeologist. That was my dream. We lived in Sudan for a long time and we saw the pyramids, and I think maybe that influenced. I wanted to be an archaeologist. And my father, coming from, having lived his youth during the war, he felt like no daughter of his, and he has two daughters, no daughter of his can be an archaeologist. I mean, that's just that's a hobby. You need to be a lawyer or an engineer or a doctor.
Hmm.
That is so sad. So that created major conflict between my dad and myself. And then eventually I did go into science just because. But all my life, I think I've been digging in the sand. Deep down, I'm still the archaeologist. And that's something that is very sad in, so many ways for me. um, And it's one thing if kids are caught up in wars, and like we know, there's two celebrated places at the moment that are in a terrible pickle. Um, and but anywhere else in a sort of reasonable, stable society, kids shouldn't be forced into doing things that they aren't. So what if they want to make a living out of wrapping products? What's wrong with that?
Yeah. Same with
You
acting or
know,
like music,
yes,
like
music, yeah.
following their own intuition and not having the fears and learned behaviors of those called parents to obstruct that journey.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely. And talking about music, there is one song that always touches me. It's Christina Aguilera, I Am Beautiful. She
mm,
obviously went through a complicated phase at that point, and she was feeling terrible, but she was telling herself, I am beautiful. That gives me goosebumps every time I hear it.
I think it's extremely important to realize that regardless of what's taken place out of our control, that we have the ability to take control of our own lives at any stage. I mean, I was 36, man. I got out of jail homeless with nothing, at 36 years old. Just this awareness and excitement to learn what it meant to love myself and really explore this journey of inner work that many people were talking about. I was just doing it to really unravel 23 years of difficult decisions, poor decisions based on education I didn't have.
Yeah,
But those moments that we take back the power in our life, even if we don't know what we're going to do with it, but we just make a choice to believe in ourselves and our direction, it
yeah,
can create any reality we want to live in. So, regardless of what dreams were obstructed for us, we can create that opportunity to live in a world that we want to live in from no matter how much time has passed from the
yeah.
point that that was taken away from us. And I think it's also really important for us to appreciate that all of the things that transpired to bring us where we are the principles of what have made us us. So it's really important to honor that part like that. I love how you said though I've been digging in the sand my whole life. So essentially you have been an archaeologist, but you've just been digging with it wasn't inside of pyramids or ruin sites. It was inside of yourself.
Exactly. Exactly.
Everyone is an archaeologist. We are all digging in the sand. That was so poetic how you said that. And it's so true. And uncovering, belief systems that have been created out of experiences that were detrimental to our personal growth at that time is such a beautiful thing to uncover because when we realize that we now have the opportunity to create a new belief system out of something that happened in the past that doesn't define us in the moment, that integrates into something that is absolutely priceless. And the reward of that is growth and evolution.
Absolutely. And that really was enabled for me through Reiki, no question, because there are times where I feel very hesitant, or times I feel very low, just like that moment when you and I connected. And I can always sit back, and it is a kind of a form of meditation, but not the traditional Om meditation. It's a like you people sometimes talk about meditating even for 2 minutes. I just there's an interesting personal development person, James Clear, and he talks about that you should be meditating every few minutes. Don't try the big sessions. But I find that because of Reiki, I can always surround myself with a kind of a cocoon of beautiful light. Not always the same color. And by the way, I see colors.
Mm,
I see colors when I close my eyes. When I look at someone, I see colors. And I'm doing that to you now. And, just sort of, okay, so this is probably going to be a bit tricky. So, what I see, you have a bright um, lime yellow and a fluorescent green color emanating from you. So, those are the colors that I see.
I love it.
I, I don't know why, but I always assumed everyone could do this. that I didn't realize that not everyone sees colors, but I can only see colors when I close my eyes. And so when I do Reiki, I
So
and when
by
I use,
sorry, but by colors, are you do you think are we talking auras?
could be,
Could be.
could be,
Just
could be.
haven't explored the depths of what that means. I'm going to look into the yellow and lime light. I have often saw the golden light around myself, or
And
through my awareness. That's when I meditate, like that. The golden light. That's always what it is the golden light.
that fluorescent green. You know when you see fluorescent, where you see the aurora borealis.
That's exactly the color I was thinking of when you said it. That was the color because I
Exactly.
know it.
That's it.
That's funny, and I know that color for myself. I don't know why, but I
Okay.
know it.
So I close my eyes and I see it. So you might call it aura. I just call it colors because
Sure.
I feel like, can I say that I can see auras? I don't know. I've never been trained in that. It's just kind of
Right,
it's always happened to me.
right.
And so I've always assumed everyone could do it. And then I realized that no, so I stopped talking about it. But as I've grown older, I couldn't care when I see people and I say, yeah, I can see your color. Yeah. And just like I've told you, um,
My wife has just been discussing the same thing, where she's seeing people's colors. So, one of the relationships, she's in Costa Rica right now, and one of the associations that they were able to pinpoint with her seeing colors, because this is brand new for her too. She just started, she, shares with people like, this is your color. And they started associating it with astrology and looking at where people's Venus was
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
in under what planet, and that Venus under what planet, whatever the color is associated with that was the one she was seeing. So I'm very curious if your relationship to color can be correlated to the same area. Do you know much about astrology?
Oh, a little bit. I have read quite a lot, but I don't profess myself an expert at
No,
all.
myself included. But we just build relationships between things that we have seen value in just based on, so like our birth charts, for example. It
Yes,
has, if you look at what your ascendant is, for me, mine's a Virgo. If you read what it's like for a Virgo in ascendant, you're reading Justin. It's wild that somebody can read the trajectory of my journey, my characteristics, my being, the core essence of who I am, and my path, my future destination, based on a planet being in a constellation at a certain time when I'm born is unbelievable. So a lot of people attribute astrology. Oh, I don't believe in astrology. Why? Oh, the horoscope's always wrong. Well, yeah, that's the misconception, is that people have
yes,
made a
yeah, yeah,
business out of horoscopes that telling you
yeah,
your
yeah,
love
yeah,
and finance. This is
yeah, yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah,
It's
yeah, no,
so much deeper, and there's
yeah,
so much more meaning into it. And baby steps within anything, right? We just grab a book and start learning about who you are and your natal chart. And for people, the natal chart can be found. We use a website called Dienst, and what it does is it allows you to put your birth date, your time, and your location, and then it'll offer you your birth chart. And with your birth chart, you're able to plug that into the internet and learn about yourself through your moon sign, your sun sign, and your ascendant, and so forth.
yeah, because that's very interesting. But just out of interest, I mean, this is sort of unrelated, but it just so I'm an Aquarian, and
Oh, there's where the eccentricity comes from.
uh,
I thought you were a Virgo, but I'm very curious to see if you have a Virgo ascendant, because what you said about social injustices just tearing you to your core, myself
yeah,
included. That is
yeah,
something that's one of the things that I live for in this life, is to create justice in social injustices by creating a new system. So that's how I circumvent that feeling, is by creating. Creation is
yeah,
always our
yeah,
our gift to the world.
yeah,
But I'm curious if you and I are one and the same, because we do have a lot of similarities.
yeah, absolutely. What birth sign are you? I'm just curious
I'm a
now.
Scorpio sun sign,
Oh my goodness!
and a very
Wow.
fitting one. I am like I am the epitome of what a Scorpio is. Now, when we're talking about sun signs, or we're talking about astrological signs, there are many signs that make us up for who we are, which are all very important to the character that we, and characteristics and behaviors, and our journeys and destinations. But like anything, we have an unevolved aspect, a dark aspect, and we have an evolved aspect, which is a light aspect. So there's two sides to everything because we have harmony and balance within the polarity of life. And yeah, same within the astrological signs. Because when I was a drug addict, I was the poster boy for the self-destructing, abusive Scorpio to myself and to others, because I was completely infatuated and attached to using drugs as a solution to a problem that I didn't have education for. So I used my gifts within a Scorpio of manipulation, narcissism, to get what I wanted and to get what I needed to consume that product. But over time, when we undo the process of all of the detriments that hold us back, we can evolve through our sign and tap into the gifts and use all of that power for ourselves. So it's a beautiful thing, and others, to share with others.
And it's very interesting because I was wondering, so where's the sting in your tail? But you've just explained it. Yeah, because normally you always see the Scorpio with the sting in the tail.
Right.
But you've just your dark side. So there it was. Okay.
I alchemized it, and that sting was it's so important. It's almost as if it's a misrepresentation of the Scorpio, because if the Scorpio looked at how it stung itself, it would then see how it becomes full circle. So the stinger is actually embedded into the human, into the sign itself, because the more we hurt ourselves, the more we have an ability to see how we can come out of it, that we're the ones in control of pulling the spike out. And it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, was that aspect of that sign.
Yeah, fascinating. So for me, I could always see, as the aquarium, the water bearer, I'm the classical humanist. I'm always, looking to all sorts of things to help out. But that's where it comes as well, sometimes to the detriment of myself. And I don't even notice it because I get so rolled over, so excited in the give, 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 give.
Yeah.
That and I always and by the way, I always give without expecting anything back. It's always been it's always been me.
Unconditional. Unconditional. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's
But
always
the air signs, like they're some of my favorite humans because they're out there. Yes, exactly. But I love that ability. And some of them are out there eccentrically, but then some of them are wildly out there, like they're in their mind so much that they're alien. And they're not from this planet. But I love that because they have a deeper connection to an intellect that takes place in their mind and not so much in societal's behaviors. They're okay not to fit in and be a part of the following because they're analyzing from their intellect perspective. The air sign, that's what it means, is to be up in the mind or up in the higher realm, which I find fascinating. Now, sometimes it's very difficult to be around because for me, I move quick, I think logically, creatively, very fast. Let's make this decision. I know what to do. I got it. Where an air sign's like, wait a minute, I'm gonna really analyze this before. But it's beautiful because my wife's a double air sign and she's a Capricorn by a sun sign, but her other two, moon and her ascendant, are Aquarian. And just how I was saying, she holds all the gifts that I don't have. They're within her. It's because of our charts being very, very similar, but then they have that adjustment in it. And it's a gift to be with her because she's one of my greatest teachers. I see the example of all of the qualities that I would love to have in myself in human form and unraveling in an example of what that looks like right in front of me. So I'm able to apply that practice into my life by witnessing and observing her, again with the tigress or the tiger, because I myself identify with a cat spirit or however that looks for anyone. And it's such a beautiful thing to really know yourself through these astrological awarenesses, because it really just brings more of an understanding of you, your partner, your abilities. Like a lot of people are in relationships where they're completely different and they're so closed off to learn from each other that the relationship doesn't work. And it's like, well, if you had a higher understanding, especially with your children, if you knew your children's birth chart, you would understand how to show up for them and their needs based on their astrological signs. Now, take that with a grain of salt and do your own homework, but at the same time, it's a parameter and a guideline to give you an awareness to knowledge that you may not have. I mean, Carl Jung, one of the godfathers of psychology, used the 12 archetypes, which
Yeah.
is 12 zodiac signs, to understand people without knowing them. Now, we're
Yeah.
all individualistic within our own personal experiences, but there's 12 groups or archetypes of humans that do very similar things, which are also, he used the association of astrology. So it's never really been more relevant within the understanding of self. So when I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
around Aquarians, I'm often reminded of just how beautiful it is to be in that energy and how difficult at times it can be. But the difficulty allows me to really be balanced within myself and say, okay, let's learn from them. What they're living. I'm a water sign, you know, so I'm very in touch with emotions, compassion, empathy, sympathy, these kind of things. But an air sign is very intellectual and able to create from a different space. So it's like, ooh, let me learn from you. Let me, you know, let's be in this energy. What's going on here? So it's very beautiful.
But also quite interesting what you're saying. The learning aspect, but there's something a lot more profound than this. I was just thinking, as you said, so the archetypes. There's some very interesting work by an American woman, Caroline Myss. She wrote The Anatomy of the Spirit and the variety of books that relate to that. But another one that I think connects with us. I was just thinking as you spoke, Deepak Chopra wrote a book called Synchro Destiny, and if you read this, it's because he really a trained medical doctor of Indian English heritage that then ends up in the US. Um, he talks about the fact that there is no such thing as coincidences. They all are synchro destinies.
Yeah.
There's a synchronicity about something. And I could see, I mean, actually, I could see just the way you were talking, and I was listening to you now, the last 2, 3 minutes. Oh my goodness, this is not a coincidence that for whatever God forsaken or universe forsaken reason, we were meant to meet.
Mm.
And this is such a cross of paths. And quite unbelievable because we're talking about alignments. Alignments often mean you just sort of next to each other, but we're actually crossing, and
Mm.
we have a kind of a braided river. Do you know what I mean by a
Yeah.
braided river?
Yeah. Like take the
It's
helixes of a DNA. It's the same
yeah,
thing. I know
yes, yeah,
exactly what
yeah,
you're talking about.
yeah. And it's just, and it's so, and I sort of, I'm listening to you and my air sign, so my brain is going.
But it's true.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm very grateful. I wanted to pull you back into, I think Reiki is a very important topic to talk about. And I actually would like to talk a little bit more about it, to learn a little bit more about it. I had a Reiki session with a friend of mine, which was just remarkable how our two energies aligned in that moment. And there was a very beautiful moment after she did her Reiki session with me where I had all these visions come to me during the session. And
Yeah.
I'd come back and we were discussing the session. I said, can I write this down? And she's like, yeah, yeah. So I started writing down everything that I saw along that journey. And we were going through, and she said, I saw some things too. And she was trying to place what this was. And she's like, I saw this almost like a toy. She said it was an old toy and it was had wings and it was something that would fly. And I said, oh, I forgot to write down that part of the journey. It was really important. It was the part where I was an eagle. And she's like, it was an eagle. And she pulled it up on her phone and she showed me. She's like, this is exactly what I saw. I said, a big
Oh,
part of what my vision was the eagle. And interestingly enough, my wife did a reading with a Mayan relative who used the Mayan calendar as
yeah,
an
yeah.
astrological application as well. And my animal was an eagle. And the story that was given to me over the 13 spaces of that astrological application was very, very accurate to who I am and what I am. So the fact that we both saw that in the golden light, which is always present with me, and she saw it too, I was like, what is Reiki, man? Like this is wild, like that we just connected our minds, our hearts, our visions and all, like I was just laying down and she just ran her hands over me in this very, I don't want to say intimate way because I don't want that to be
No, no,
misconstrued
no.
for something else, but it is intimate in a sense, the fact that there's a deep connection between souls taking place, two balanced humans. Um, and I think that there's a level of intimacy within that that's completely acceptable between friends. You know, it
Yes.
not everything has to be sexual. I think that that's something that I really am starting to talk a lot more about as well, because the intimacy of life is really being robbed from us in this perspective of
Yeah.
sexuality, hypersexuality these days. It's just
Yeah.
wild. It's like, wait a minute, man, we could be in a space together and love each other, not all of us taking our clothes off and having sex with each other. Like
Yeah,
it's cool,
exactly.
you know? Like we can just be cool with each other, man, and just
You
love,
can make
love.
love to your face
Yeah,
without having sex.
exactly, exactly, like you were saying. But yeah, so I didn't mean to cut you off there before, but you use Reiki and this energy as a part of your practice. But what attracted you to that? Like, what brought you to this? I think it's very important, and can talk a little bit about what it is. I think it's important.
Well, it was one of those things. So just to sort of put it in context, I lived in Portugal until I was about 17. Then I went to South Africa, and I was going to be there just for a few years because my dad was an engineer and he moved with his company to where various construction dams or bridges were. And he was in South Africa at that time when I was finishing school. And I was meant to just stay in South Africa for as long as I was doing my degrees and to go back to Portugal, but I didn't. And I ended up marrying someone who's South African, and I stayed there for 22 years. And we went through quite a complicated process because it was at the time when South Africa was transitioning from a very sort of autocratic apartheid state to getting Mandela released. And it was fantastic, superb, in the sense that, you know, now we were going to have a more egalitarian society. It turned out to be really, really hard, complex, and very conflictuous. Mandela was amazing. He was one of those universal souls. There are few people like him. But unfortunately, a lot of people in the ANC were not like Mandela. And, all sorts of conflict. So that led to us leaving South Africa. And in South Africa, I wanted to experiment with other sides that weren't so materialistic, but I was so constrained by the fact that we whites had a lot and most blacks, not all, but most blacks didn't, and
Yeah.
it was a very unequal society, and that kind of weighed on me. When I came to New Zealand, that lid was lifted, and I felt much more relieved. And I think that's exactly like you said earlier. You're opening yourself to other things. I don't even think that consciously I thought I'm going to be doing Reiki. I just kind of relaxed and I felt less constrained. And I met someone who was a Reiki practitioner. Then I had a session with her, and then I had several sessions, and I got to meet the group which she sort of run that used to sort of have Reiki evenings every now and then. And I decided I wanted to do Reiki 1, and then I did Reiki 2. And when you do Reiki 2, it really, for me, it was, I actually want to know a lot more because I wanted to use the symbols. Sort of Reiki has symbols associated, which now they're all sort of all out on the internet. Various books publish them. At a time when I did my course, we weren't allowed to disclose the signs. They were very symbolically associated with the energy, which, by the way, is not mine. So, what is Reiki? Sort of bring that in now.
Sorry,
So, Reiki,
I just want to touch on one thing there, like the signs and the symbols. I'm very curious about this. Like, are we talking chalices? Are we talking male female
oh,
symbols? Like, what are we talking? Like
we're
sacred
talking about
geometry?
they're talking about symbols that could be, they're not like that. But if you imagine rune signs
There we
all
go.
on top of
Okay.
each other,
Okay. Rune signs.
so they
I was trying to vision it. I couldn't envision it because I've never seen it. So yeah.
and they're quite long, and literally when you practice, say if I was doing a Reiki session and then I felt something that I needed to use a sign associated with, um, giving energy and receiving, chakra. And it's very much a series of circles. So, I would be doing this in my head, even though my hands would be on the person. And we were always taught to leave a gap. So you never touch the
Yeah.
body, always a short gap. But there are practices that lay hands directly on. I wasn't. So I imagine those chakra, which is it's such a comforting sign. But there are others much more, say Heiki and others. They're complicated, they're long, and they have dashes and they have vertical signs, and then you have to do a curve, and so like runes all on top of each other. So that's the sort of best way to describe without sort of drawing the signs, if you see what I mean.
I do,
And they
yeah.
all
And the application of using these is done through a visualization representation of that through the form of energy, then applied.
exactly,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
the envision that then translates through. That's incredible. So that thought process manifestation of that symbol holds some sort of connection to. So what do they stand for? What does the symbol stand for?
Um, a variety of elements that could be comfort, could be protection, could be healing, specific deep healing. So they all have purposes, and some are more layered on top of each other. Like for instance, we are, I don't know, about 10,000 kilometers, maybe more, 12,000 kilometers apart from each other. So if you needed a healing session, I could hold a picture of you and focus on you, and then I would use the symbols for comfort, healing, but then enveloped in this distance symbol that will transport it to you. And it sounds hocus pocus, but it
It
works.
doesn't sound hocus pocus at all. I think the fact that we speak about things being hocus pocus really detaches people from the idea of our power. Back to the goddess and goddesses application. That is you being a goddess. That is you manifesting your magic that you pull from the aether through shared what collective consciousness that you pull up in your mind and you share with another human being. I think that conversation and that ability is something that we need to be discussing more and more. And I love the fact that Reiki stands for that, but not only stands for it, but it's an example of what that looks like.
Yeah, and the other thing is, so it's very much you can't tell a priori, oh, I have a list of symbols, I'm going to use this, that. You don't. You have to get into the zone. You have the person, and the person is lying on the table, and you've got to allow yourself to settle.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, before I forget to say this, so Reiki is not mine. The word Reiki means universal energy. Ki is unity. So the plants behind you are full of ki. There's ki going through them.
Okay.
So it's universal energy. So it goes from the universe in the earth, and it just channels through us. But it's not mine. I can't hold it in a box. It's not even my own. If you have something that's terrible, it doesn't stick to me because it's your energy, but it's not mine. It's flowing through. But what it really enables people it is to say to, I suppose, get rid of all attachments that are physical and just allow the universal energy to come through. How was this identified? So there was a Dr. Usui in the 1900s, Japanese doctor, who was unhappy with all sorts of things in his life, and he went up a mountain to have a period of just solace. And on the way down, he fell and hurt himself, and he had no implements to help. He had a big gash on his leg, and he was desperate for help. There was no one around, quite a distance from any village. So he sat down, holding his leg, just holding where the cut was and the bleeding was. And he sat there quietly. Obviously, he'd been meditating on his own quietly. And all of a sudden, he felt this strange sense of healing, and the bleeding stopped.
Wow.
And it was quite a gashing bleeding, and he this really perturbed him. So he started exploring more, and then started training the nurses that worked with him to use it with patients that were feeling more at sorts because they were unhappy about whatever ailments they had and likely probably going to die, and people feeling uneasy. And so he trained the nurses. Then they had a major earthquake in Japan, like they often do. And so much of the infrastructure was destroyed that in their hospital, they managed to treat many more patients than they could have because they used Reiki. It was at that stage that he started naming, and he started training people.
Wow.
And he ended up training someone who, also a Japanese woman, Mrs. Tanaka, that ended up in Hawaii. And Mrs. Tanaka in the 40s was, during the Second World War, was put in a concentration camp because of Japan, having done Pearl Harbor and, all those funny things that happen. It's the government that has a thing, but your neighbor with whom you've never had a problem now has to go to jail because your neighbor is Japanese. It's that
Right.
kind of stupid thing. So the blinkered view. So Mrs. Tanaka ended up in prison, and while in prison, in this concentration camp that they had for Japanese people, then she trained a whole lot of people to feel better, and it kept on training. So the person who is my Reiki master was trained by people that were trained by Mrs. Tanaka.
Wow.
So we get a lineage of the training, and we get an approach which then everyone modifies to some extent, but we all respect not our energy, it's the universal energy, it doesn't belong to us. We share it with everyone. It's for well-being. Yes, of course. If you don't believe it, you don't believe it. I Reiki my products, and people think, oh, that's just placebo. It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't care.
So let's go back into what is Reiki. So Reiki is the universal connection to the
Connection.
energy surrounding us and applying that into the energy source that is within us.
Yeah. Correct.
Beautiful. Very, very beautiful. And I love how you bring that to your products. And whether people are connected with that or not, it doesn't matter because your intention in your awareness, in your understanding, in your journey realizes the potential and value in it. So it's harmless. And it's like sitting in front of a sound bath, where you listen to certain frequencies or vibrational music or sound healing bowls. You can't stop what is being recalibrated within you because
Yeah.
you're in the area and circumference of energy or vibrations. And that's the wonderful byproduct of purchasing your products. I actually really liked that part. I was very curious about it, to be honest.
And the other thing is, so with Reiki, when I was developing the products, this was quite fascinating. I had this other energy. By the way, I know we're sort of going crazy here. I love rocks and I love crystals. But I mean, not the crystals, things that you see in crystal shop. And sometimes those crystal shop give me the heebie-jeebies. But because it's all so commercialized. But I do
I
like
agree.
this.
I agree.
It's sort of it's a strange kind of thing. You see, there's the Aquarian coming through me, but so I had this affinity with lapis lazuli. It may well be because as a kid I saw the pyramids and saw the lapis lazuli um, in um, in the pyramids, in all the sarcophagi, and the masks, etc. But the thing is that so lapis lazuli is not a crystal; it's a rock because it's made up of calcite, that's the white, lazurite, that's the beautiful blue, and it's got pyrite, which I think is an amazing mineral. Pyrite is fool's gold. So it's got these rays of sort of what looks like gold, but it's not gold, it's fool's gold. And how much in our lives we surrounded by fool's gold, and we sort of follow things. So I really felt it was the energy of the lapis lazuli, and that comes links to the Azuli name. That's Azur, which means blue in Latin. And by the way, Lis, Azuli. So I read it the French way, which is sort of the way I'm used to seeing things, Azuli. But when I devised the word, which was meant Azur, I wanted the word lise, which is uh, French Portuguese for something that is smooth. Now, Azurlis, you're going to laugh when you hear this, is a Pokemon character, the little blue Pokemon character. So I couldn't use the word Azulise because Azulise is trademarked. So I dropped the E and it became Azurli. I should have dropped the S because for me, a lot of S's are silent. And for Anglo-Saxon people, they read it as Azurlis, which is okay. I respond to all sorts of things. But it was the Reiki in the Azure, which is the sky and the deep water of the sea and the energy going through the mineral lapis lazuli and the fool's gold, with the pyrite, which is sort of an interesting sort of element there. That created the energy around the product. So I get people all the time say, so do you grind the stone to put in the product? No, no. It's the energy of the stone.
Right.
That's placebo.
Right. I think though, people can take away from this conversation today a piece of who you are. And I think that regardless of what other people's interpretations are of a product or a human, they can make their own today with who you've displayed yourself to be. I think that's one of the most coolest things about you. Again, I just keep going back to this age thing. I'm like, you say 67 and an old lady, but I'm gonna encourage you to, you show up like this. Like, let's say if I bring you out with, a group of people that I hang out with, you know what I mean? They're not going to see you for that. There's people out here that see beyond that. And that spirit that we were talking about before, like the vessel may age, sure, but that
Yeah.
spirit is the youthful presence of what we allow ourselves permission to tap into. And you do that very, very nicely because it's authentic. And that authenticity, like, I mean, we could hang out, you know what I mean? And no one's going to be like, oh, you brought the old lady. It's like, no, man, like, who's this lady? She's cool. Like, and the fact that we come from two different worlds, like, I'm from the street, you know what I mean? Like, I know the street. Of course, I've learned things over time that help me
Yeah, of course.
speak
Yeah,
many
yeah.
languages, absolutely. But I mean, that, like you say, that entanglement of two
Oh,
lines that's
oh,
happening, it's
absolutely.
it's the poetry of life. It's so beautiful. So I encourage
And
you to step out of your comfort
your
zone.
colors. I mean, you're just glowing. You're just glowing.
Thank you.
Your
You as well, though. You like right in front of me. You're the same as me, and I think that really tap into that. Who are you connecting with? It's not your job to be liked by everybody. It's not your job. It's not
yes.
everybody's job to be liked by everybody. Although we believe that that's going to help us. It's not.
Uh,
It's finding your tribe, man. It's finding the people that are going to help you grow based on an alignment of energy. You don't need many to grow a lot. You know what I'm saying? You just need to make the right connections. And by really tapping back into the source of you and stepping out with that
yeah,
vulnerability and
yeah.
not this idea of somebody you're supposed to be to please others, you are gonna grow. Whether it's financially,
Of
economically,
course.
or
Yeah,
just
yeah.
independently. One way or another, you are going to be on that path where you're meant to be. And you might see that, oh my gosh, the skincare company is now going to be changing its name and its direction and this and that and everything else, but it's going to take you to that place. And that's a wonderful gift you possess. I think it's absolutely beautiful that you have that.
Well, what's beautiful here is the incredible connection between you and I, two people, continents apart, big Pacific Sea, sort of ocean between the two. And there's no distance. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's no distance between us, even though we
Absolutely.
are
Absolutely.
geographically.
And we've only
Um,
had a couple emails, like you said, and some
and
WhatsApp messages. But
yes,
again,
exactly.
it's the authenticity. It's the energy, vibrational field of authenticity. That's why I sent you that first voice note talking about your divine feminine. This is what I'm looking for in humans. I'm looking for it because it doesn't take everyone to start a movement. It only takes 8 million of us. And 8 million may seem like a big number, but it's not. It's not that big. It's achievable and we can do it. So if we find each other and we step into that power together, we become examples of how others can lead their lives. Because, we had a very authentic conversation today where neither one of us showed up with expectation. We showed up with
Oh,
excitement. Both of us had excitement and we just let it lead us wherever we wanted. And that's what my podcast is. It's like, let's just free flow. And I'm learning and I've learned so much more ways of delivery, so much more beautiful gifts to listen and not before, I'm just everything is education. I was just like, I need to say all these things, but I
yeah.
forget like, hey, wait a minute, like there's things to learn as well, right? And it's just centered me and balanced me and allowed me to be so much more of a podcaster, of a guy who's running a business, but just as a human, it's just been so elemental for my human evolution. And I'm grateful that both of us are examples of inner work and an example that the journey's not over until the destination's been achieved, which is the end of the cycle. So learn, grow, love, live, laugh, and make mistakes along the way and just
Absolutely,
discover
absolutely.
yourself through all of your flaws as they're your greatest asset. And
And when you do it, do it with abandon. Don't feel constrained. You need to sort of let go of the paradigms that have restrained you, or me, or whoever. And it requires focusing on self, because I think we get distracted with the busyness.
yeah,
And that is, and I think that's one of the most important messages in your podcasts is take time to look after yourself. That is so, it's such a simple, but it is so profound. And so many people are deaf to it. And then they say it doesn't work, doesn't work, doesn't work. It's I'll tell you this sort of this silly funny joke I heard the other day, but it epitomizes this. This some guy was very uptight because he wants to win the lotto because he needs more money, and he never wins the lotto, and he was criticizing God, the universe, whatever. And some voice from the universe said to him, "Well, it would help us if you bought a ticket." So the thing is, you can expect things to do, but you've also got to have the heart
yeah,
and the soul to do something. So those baby steps you're talking about,
yeah,
even if it's a baby step, to do something, you've got to do. You can't just sit here and say, "Yeah, I'm ready." Do you
yeah.
know what?
But it's very common, very, very common. I work with a lot of people, and by work, I just mean speak, have conversations, be
It's
present for someone. And a lot of people, I'll ask them, like, what do you think's going to change from your current situation? How's it going to change? Like ask, like, do you think it's just something's going to shift? And they're like, yeah, I'm waiting for it. I'm like, that's the problem. Change
yeah,
occurs when we try something new and we begin to teach ourselves new patterns and habits. I mean, I didn't just walk away from a 23-year drug addiction because I waited for this moment to happen. No, I surrendered my life to love. And through that application, I
yeah,
became a student of love that just allowed me to be extremely excited about learning about something I had no idea what it was.
yeah.
So it was through that journey and that dedication and discipline to myself that allowed me to create a new reality
Yeah,
and really step into the power of being a god because
yeah,
it's true.
yeah. Exactly. But you had to have the discipline, you had the willingness, you had to have, in fact, um, it was more than courage. You, you had,
Excitement. It was
yeah,
excitement.
you had that need for discovery,
Yeah.
because all those other things that you were using were not giving you anything. I mean,
No.
they were actually making you worse. And all of a sudden you realize, huh, it's all here.
Right. Well,
I have it.
it's like people pleasing applications. So many people understand how to help everyone else. I know how to show
Yes.
up for my family. I know how to show up for my therapist. I know how to show up for my employment. I know how to show up for my sports team. But when it comes to showing up for themselves, they really don't know where to begin. And I think that's a really common factor within society because we're not taught that as kids. But it begins with baby steps, like really asking yourself what is something that you would do just for you. And in the moment, you really have no idea, but you choose one thing. You try and remember something from your childhood because that's what we have, or a moment that offered us joy. All of us have these little moments, whether it was a book by a pond, or going swimming in a pool, or a small, walk in nature, whatever that may be. You just start there. You feed your soul with that one thing. And again, like I was explaining to you, how when we tap into that creative heart source, it allows our intuitive guides, our neuroscience to be reshaped in a way that allows neurons to fire that weren't normally active. It's a dopamine hit that comes from the universal understanding of love for self. And it's so real. Like it's so real and it's so easy to access, but it's very difficult to start. But so is walking and talking. You never learned how to walk and talk without falling down, making a whole bunch of mistakes, but you had dedication and discipline to understand how to do it so you could create a language and you could go places. You can do
Yeah,
the same thing with inner work and it becomes very easy once you get started.
you do. And you know what? I've just seen a wolf in you.
Oh, thank you.
The Arctic wolves, they're quite unreal creatures.
Powerful animal, beautiful animal. Thank you for
So,
saying that. I really appreciate that. Means a lot. Seriously, it does.
mm,
Yeah. And I really want people to understand, like, I mean,
mm,
5 years ago, I got out of jail homeless. Like, I am not special. I am not unique. I am just a human being that decided to learn about myself and my spiritual connection to something more. And spirituality to me is just love in action. To be spiritual is to understand love. Spirituality is love in action. It's always our action that speaks louder than words. So if you're trying to understand things that you're reading and you're not sure of what it feels like, I tell people, don't read the book, act the book out. It will teach you a completely different narrative and give you wonderful examples of how you can grow. And I just really want people to know, like, this is all I try and do with my life is show you that if I came from where society says is the absolute bottom, then you can too. Anyone can do this. It's just a dedication to move beyond the discomfort of your comfort.
so let me correct you there. You are special because you are unique. There's no one else like Justin Woods. You won.
True.
So you are special. But I understand what you're saying, not being special in the sort of like affected way. No, you're
Right.
not.
Fantastical, mystical. Like it's no,
Yes.
man, I'm just a human. I'm just a guy,
No.
like
But you are very special. In fact, you are a jewel. So look up in the starry sky at night, and if you do see the aurora boreal, um, you know, close to the poles, you'll see the shining star there. That's Justin. That's your guiding star. You are quite unique.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to me. I do have a strong connection to light sources above me, and I do feel intuitively guided by certain constellations that seem to just have my attention, as well as the Aurora Borealis or the Northern Lights. I'm extremely connected to it. So, and yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for today. I really appreciate you. So, where do people find your products? How do people get in touch with you? I'll put all the links in the description below, but
So just
let's,
my website,
yeah,
and
what?
so it's dub, the usual stuff, and then azurlis.co.nz, and there's some pictures of me in there, and there's other things, and there's a contact form. Otherwise, they can just email me, Fernanda at Azuli. I have an interesting page on the website that's called Skin IQ, where I post articles on all sorts of things, and I go against the flow. What a surprise. Um,
I like it.
and I haven't done the article for this week yet. Just been too many things on the go. But I mean, you know, I'll do it when I can.
Yeah, that I think like that's really important. Like even my podcast, I try to do an episode a week, but I have myself in many different places right now. And I
Exactly.
took a step back and I really reminded myself why I do this. I do this to bring an awareness to beautiful conversations and topics and I guess today products made by humans that have something more to offer than just accumulation of profit. But I do this to create something beautiful. It's a creative process of shared energy, and I didn't really want to have to be bound to hit some schedule that was
Yeah.
people pleasing for other people. Although I absolutely I'm just extremely flattered people listen and they take things from the podcast. That's one of the greatest things that I receive from putting this creation together. But at the end of the day, I have to serve my soul. And if I'm depleted trying to put inauthentic content out that
Exactly.
I can see, read, and feel, because I know I'm tired, and I've learned to set boundaries. When I'm tired, I don't do podcasts. I don't do shorts. I don't do reels. I don't do social media because I'm not aligned with that lighthouse connection like you were talking about. So until I'm in a space where I've evolved and I've done enough new things in my life that allows me to be in that space all the time, because that's what I'm doing when I'm not here. I'm creating abundance that'll allow me to be free and do this permanently, which is actually months away. I'm months away from completing that part of the journey of being financially free in a sense where I'll be stable enough to do this full time and turn this into something absolutely beautiful. I'm months away from that, but I've been doing that for a couple of
Hey,
years.
it already is beautiful, huh?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. But
Yeah,
beautiful in the sense that this I can show up here weekly, two, three times a week with people like you and be like, this is what I do. I worked for this, I worked hard for this and now I'm here because of my creation. And it's like that, that part is, that part's really cool but I've been able to set that boundary. So really important. And that's what I was sharing with you before as well. Those boundaries sometimes they're so important. And also when I step back from podcasting, I come back into this renewed because
Yeah,
I'm out of breath and I'm not
yeah,
following the same pattern and habit of making the same mistakes because I'm making the same mistakes and I'm not
yes.
learning. I'm not breathing. I'm not like, geez, Justin, give yourself a minute away from this. Grow a little bit, man. So I did that. I gave myself permission and giving ourselves permission to learn and to step away from things has been such a wonderful gift and tool. I use that as a tool in my self-love, self-care practice.
And the other thing is that without you haven't said that, but I mean, I can say it. You become a kind of an example to other people, no question. Because I mean, there are lots of lost souls all over the place that sort of go on to this self-blame or blaming others to do things. And I mean, look at you. It's you took a step. You took a step. Um, was it easy? Probably not. Probably had lots of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
But you took a step, and once you've done it, it's like there's a very beautiful movie. It's a puppet movie called The Dark Crystal,
I know
and
it very well. Sorry.
okay,
I know it very well. Yes. But
okay. And do
finish.
you remember that scene when one of the elders, he puts his staff down. It is time.
Yes.
Because the little kids had the piece that was missing, but all the big monsters were against them, and the elders that had been isolated in their little sort of place of secrecy. It is time. And I always think of that very profound simple statement, the old man, the old elder. It is time, and he's now got no fear. Doesn't matter, it will be done. And that is what it took for you put your stuff down. It is time.
Yeah.
You wanted to change.
Yeah.
And this is what's about people. have to want to change.
Yeah.
Because that beautiful song by Coldplay, I Will Fix You. I
Yeah.
love Coldplay and I love the song. But no, I can't fix you. You can't fix me. But I can fix myself.
Yeah.
You can fix yourself. But I still love the song.
I think it was the injustice within myself. All of the decisions and choices I had made that brought me up to that moment just really surfaced in front of my awareness. And I was like, damn, Justin, there's no one to blame but yourself, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I've been victimized my whole life because I've held myself in that victim mentality. That was what
Yes.
allowed me to use
Yeah.
freaking drugs for 23 years. It allowed me to be real comfortable within that
Yeah.
victimization. So you don't have to be a drug addict to do that. I mean, some people do that because their mother was controlling or their father
Yeah.
left. They were abandoned. They weren't seen. They weren't heard, whatever it is. It's like, oh, I didn't have this. Therefore, my choices are the result of that. It's like, actually, no, you chose to make the choices you thought would be good for you at the time that turned out to be
Yeah.
very irresponsible. And that's because you didn't have the education and tools to grow. But, you can break that right now and choose to learn something different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're
Exactly.
you're right. I did take that step. And I also just want to share with people, we are creating a course. My company, I have a mental health and addiction company, but I have a company that speaks to love and unconditional love, and it's called Affliction by Addiction. We are currently in the process of creating a course called A Student of Love. And what A Student of Love will do for you is offer you a guideline of how to alchemize fear using love, because love is the medicine and connection is the key. But these things take place within ourselves first. And often inner work, as I've done everything on my own. I never read books. I never had a teacher or a mentor. I just used my life and my experience as a way to traverse inner work. And I realized that a lot of people found a lot of benefit in the things that I was talking about. So I decided to put all of the experiences that I had and the results of the experiences into a format that it would allow people to learn from it through a practical application. But I didn't want it to be very narrow in its delivery through one perspective. So I found 8 other people that have had very traumatic pasts within themselves, and they alchemized their journeys using love. So all of us have foundations of unconditional love. This is what we've done to be the humans we are today, and we're all the same, but we have different experiences. So we've got 9 of us together, bringing all of our experiences, all of our tools, all of our education, and we're going to offer this to people. So I didn't really want to make a course as many people do and say, oh, just keep coming back. I'll teach you this little thing. I said to my friends, let's give them everything. Let's give them everything we have. One course. Let's give them the tools, the education, the motivation, where we have a weekly group meeting where we come and we can discuss practices, because I think that's really important to have a
Yes.
community so we can
Yeah.
see our environments and how we can
Yeah.
grow through them. That's a really wonderful thing to have. So we're putting that in there. All this is going to come out, and this is our gift. This is our gift to people to really help with the evolutionary process of transcendence, because consciousness is transcending right now. It will be a choice whether people live within their fears and their materialistic attachments to ideologies that have been fed to us through entities that are not good for us, or we can become sovereign within our choices and our lives and be examples for our children to co-create a new earth. That is what we are creating, because we understand our power, but we also understand that we are gods and goddesses and we are creating our own reality. So that's why I'm very grateful to have met you as well, because everything that I'm doing and building, and not just me, but us, we're co-creating a new earth. But we're looking for humans like this because we're very serious. We know that the entities and establishments that have been created to control us are very serious as well, because that's a reality. It's an
Yes.
absolute reality that it's taking place, and they take it very, very seriously. So we understand that in order to do our job correctly as well, we must take it very seriously as well. But it's built off beautiful principles, and we don't expect anyone to be like us. We want you to find yourself on your own terms, but we're going to give you some tools and education and some practical applications and exercises so that you understand how to use the tools, because that can be very difficult. If I speak about authenticity, but I don't show you what that looks like and how to use it, it's very confusing. So we're
Yeah.
going to simplify it. And that's really the most beautiful part about the course, is it's very simple within its journey to inner work?
You know, I've just decided something. With your permission, I want to write an article that I'll put on the IQ skincare. This is not going to be about skincare. This is going to be about your project and simplifying the tools the way you've described, because it's very aligned to what we've said about simplifying skincare, but this is way beyond skincare, and I'd love to be able to have that on my website. I don't have a lot of visitors. I think you have many more visitors than me, but I have to write this. So I'll write the article. I'll send it to you. Just edit in case I misinterpret things. And obviously, when your platform is ready to launch, we'll publish the article, because
I love that.
so we have
Thank you.
a cross. And I'd love to encourage people. There's quite a lot of people in New Zealand that have addiction issues, quite a lot, and a lot of them related to methamphetamines, which is very
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah. I
Um,
was well versed in methamphetamines and fentanyl and heroin and cocaine. And actually, I was heavily involved in all of it. Heroin was my best friend for a while until fentanyl arrived. But the beautiful part about that is I was just in school learning about all of these frequencies, all of the different feelings and reasons why we consume and why we use. And it allows me to speak about it from a place of experience, which is in most cases far more valuable than an academic classroom. And I think that that's where we have a lot of trouble with the direction of addiction conversations within mainstream society. It's like, well, how many of you are actually completely addicted and know how to get yourself out of it as well as being in it? And not just get yourself out of it. We're talking about an alchemy of an attachment. I mean, that's huge. That's quitting drugs or quitting an attachment is easy. Rewiring your brain is the difficult part. Now, that's the part I know how to do because this is my discipline. So you are free to write anything you want. I don't want you to send it to me to edit it. I just want you to write from your heart. You have that skill. I'm a writer myself, and I know what it's like to be inside that energy. So just write from your heart, and whatever you have, I am okay with, and I'm grateful.
but I just have to make sure that I have the right information about student of love and affliction by addiction. So I think
That's
you will have to read it, because obviously this just sort of like, you see, I'm like this when I write articles. I don't review. A topic comes up, and I say, right, it has to go.
yes.
It has to be done. That's how a lot of times my articles happen. And I'm so compelled to do this because your message is so important. It is so, you see, this is beyond skincare. This is what people don't understand. I'm doing skincare not because I want the skin to look beautiful, but because I want people to feel beautiful.
Yeah. It's a tool. You use it as a tool to get inside the hearts of individuals to be able to talk about
Yes.
your passion. So I see it for that, and I'm grateful that we were able to connect over skincare. I can't even believe that. But the skincare was a tool to allow you to come on here and share your heart. So that's we're all looking for our medium, and I mine was freaking drug addiction, it's just turned into this amazing thing, but we're co-creating. So
Yeah.
we our work together in the future is definite. So I'm
Yeah, no,
very grateful for
definitely.
that.
I'm so pleased. I just want to hug you.
Thank you. I appreciate you,
So, I know it's
myself
sort of,
included.
yeah,
I'll
no,
be in New Zealand. I will be in New Zealand. I believe next year we'll be there. We're gonna
okay.
hire a motorcycle and go from one end of the island to the other. So
Ah, okay, we'll have to find a way to meet.
yes,
So we'll
I will
find,
make
yes.
time. I
Oh,
appreciate you
no,
for today. My love
yeah,
is
no, well,
with you.
thank you. You've been
Thank you.
phenomenal, and you are special. You
Thank you
are
so
you.
much.
Look at the star in the sky. There's the guiding star, and then, my arm is going high up.
Thank
I
you.
mean it. What a privilege to have come on. Thank you. Thank you, Justin, for trusting your inner in a sense, beyond the words that were in Brian's email.
Thank you.
So, because that takes a lot as well. You saw something, you read something that wasn't quite what you expected, but you believed it.
I
So
believe.
I'm so privileged to have met you, and my goodness, yeah, like the song "Brothers in Arms."
Well said. Ladies and gentlemen, Fernanda da Silva Tatley. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your time and your energy listening to the episodes and the perspectives that we share throughout each episode. Real Talk for an Unreal World is built off of this foundation of shared perspective through lived experience. I find that when we live through something, we understand it in a much more practical way that's more well-rounded than just a theoretical idea of certain events or certain experiences or certain feelings that we don't actually have a connection to through an experience. So that's really what you're going to find here at Real Talk for an Unreal World. And, I just see that there's so much in the world that we can do differently if we're just brave enough, courageous enough to take that first step and try something new. And that's what I do with my life, is I just try new things. So I really just share about the experiences that I go through, and not just myself, but my guests as well. And we collaborate over a similar idea or a topic to help you grow in your life. So there's a lot of episodes in the previous episodes that may be something that you can associate to with the situation that's going on in your life right now. So I would highly encourage you to check those out. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Yeah, the social medias. And basically what I do under the name Real Talk for an Unreal World, and what I do is I just cut up the podcasts and I put them into shorts and reels to kind of help people throughout their week or with anything that's going on in their life, to make it a little more shorter content. If you stuck around for this full episode, please leave me a comment. I would love to know your thoughts, even if you've made it this far. It's really important to me to know how many people are feeling something by listening to the whole episode, and what I can do to make things better, or maybe something I can help you with in your life. I'm not closed off to any idea. I'm very much open to that. And if you know someone who's going through mental health or addiction or needs help in their life, I do this with my life. I try and help however I can. My email is justin@afflictionbyaddiction.com. Affliction by Addiction is my mental health company and addiction company, and it's here that I am creating this beautiful platform for mental health and addiction. We're currently in the process of creating a course called A Student of Love. It will be hosted on this website. You can find it there, and it's essentially all of the tools and education that rehab, counseling, society, doctors never provided me. They never taught me the tools of how to navigate trauma or how to navigate myself. So myself and 8 of my friends from around the world who have all had extremely difficult lives in their own right, we've pooled all of our experiences together as we all live with unconditional love for self, or we practice this, and we're going to offer it to you. So stick with me. You know what I mean? I'm a real guy doing real things, and all I care about is humans. Nobody gets left behind. I really care so much about doing something different in this life so we can come together over something beautiful. It doesn't have to be every man for himself. It doesn't have to be division and greed over the simplest of things, clothing and sports and color and language. Like, we're all humans having a human experience, except we're being told we have to pay for that. And I don't believe that anymore. I think we can do something different. So this is what I'm about. This is what I'm creating. And I appreciate you for being here and your involvement to help me create a new earth. And it's not just me, it's all of us. So much love to you.